Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Devi Hi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Taranti Te Daivihesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Taranti Te Devi Transcendental He Certainly Esha This Gunamayi consisting of the three modes of material nature. Mama, my, Maya, energy. Duratyaya, very difficult to overcome. Mam, unto me. Eva, certainly. Yea, those who. Prapadyante, surrender. Mayam, etad, this illusory energy. Taranti, overcome. Te, they. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Please repeat. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior position is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult. Even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows: Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, mayinam tu maheshvaram. Although Maya is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshvara, the supreme controller. Svateshvara Upanishad 440. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound. The rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, Lord Krishna, or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be free from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his parental affection for the living entity who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajagun, passion, and Tamagun, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Svetashvara Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase Tam Eva Viditva. Our freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnu Eva Na Samshayaha. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Each and every one of the sentences and the purports of Prabhupada's books are worthy of an extended time of meditation. Because even though I read the purport before, it just dawned on me when I read the first sentence that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. And I remember, then I just remember when I was reading just now that in the last class, I had asked the question from the purport that what does the science of God mean? Does anybody remember the answer to that was in the purport? Prabhupada explained what the science of God means. Yeah.
Understand the position of the conditioned soul.
No, first, before the conditions. Yeah. The science of God means to study the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or God, and his different energies. So that's the science of God. And here again, Prabhupada is saying that the Supreme Personality of God has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. So here we are understanding the science of God, that the innumerable energies of God, first of all, we are clear on the point that God has multifarious energies, and they are innumerable. And all of these energies actually are divine. And so Krishna clarifies that here. He says, Devi Esha Gunamayi. That, excuse me, these energies of mine, they're all divine. Yet, sometimes for the conditioned soul who is not aware of the divine nature of the Supreme Lord and the powerful nature of the Supreme Lord, that living entity may not see the degree of divinity of the material energy. And that's due to the generally a fact that, or an idea that the living entity sees the energies as separate from the Lord. Now, even though granted the Lord has said before that the energies are separate from Him, they're separate only in the sense that they appear to us to be disconnected. And they are created as extensions of His energy. But actually, they are not separate from the Lord, because it's the Lord Himself who is both the cause of the energy and the effect of the energy. So the Lord, even though He is our original cause and our reason for existing, when we are overcome by the idea that we are not connected to the Lord, then it appears as though our position is not that of a divine position. So that is called Maya, or illusion. And this illusion can only be overcome by connecting through surrender to the Lord. So now some philosophers, they have come throughout time, and they have said that even though it appears as though the living entity is disconnected from the Lord, actually the living entity is never disconnected. This is a false idea. So the term is used, abheda, that there's no difference between the living entity and the Lord. Then throughout history, there has been other teachers who have added commentary to this idea that the actual concept of beta does not really, abheda doesn't hold truth, because there has to be some difference between us and the Lord, the living entity and the Lord. Otherwise, how is it that me as the Lord becomes overwhelmed by illusion, or become bound up by Maya? See? So the philosophers, they will say that this is all illusion, it's not really real, the bondage is not really real, it's Maya. Okay? And when this Maya is taken away, then you will see that you are non-different than the Lord. So then later on, philosophers, they come and they refute this idea. And they said, yes, there's abheda, but there's beta also simultaneously at the same time. That we're not different from the Lord, yet when the living entity attains liberation and enters into the spiritual relationship with the Lord, then they become one and the same. So this is called beta, abeta, beta. And then there's what is called achinta, beta, beta. That means that this whole idea is really incomprehensible to the mind, to the imagination, formulation of words. But the basic idea in a nutshell is that the living entities are always eternally separated from the Lord. And even at the point of liberation, one still remains separate from the Lord. Yet one has the same identity of quality that the Lord has. And it's incomprehensible to really understand with our present senses. Therefore, the only way to really fully comprehend this idea of us being at the same time different from the Lord and non-different from the Lord is that by getting the mercy of the Lord. So the first step to getting the mercy of the Lord is to become free from the entanglement of the material world. And this freedom from the material world, entanglement, means that we have to understand what positions the living entities have in the material world and who can help us to become free from the entanglement. So sometimes people think that anybody who is highly advanced, or maybe like especially demigods or devatas, like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, that they can give us liberation from the material world. Well, they can help us on the path as devotees of the Lord, but in and of themselves, their position does not give them the qualification to bring about the liberation of the living entity. Actually, Lord Shiva himself, there's a book called the Teachings of Narada, Narada Pancharatra. And Narada, he explained the conversation that Lord Shiva has with Parvati. And Parvati, she asked Lord Shiva, she says, Mahadeva, you are omniscient and you're all powerful. You're such a great person that all the devatas, they even worship your lingam. Yet you sit without any clothes, naked, in the graveyard. And you cover your body with ashes. And you stay away from the common activities of ordinary living entities. Yet you're always sitting in meditation, and you're always chanting and praying, meditating. Who is it or what is it that you're meditating upon? So Lord Shiva, he says, oh, this is a very, very wonderful question. That actually I'm meditating upon that person who is the original person, who is none other than Lord Vishnu himself, who is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Shiva himself clarifies his position, because Lord Shiva, even though he's a very exalted personality, Lord Shiva is actually concerned with the mode of ignorance. So we see that most of the time, generally speaking, majority of people who follow Lord Shiva, they do activities that are primarily in the mode of ignorance. You see here, even here, some Shiva bhaktas are engaged in activities which are in the mode of ignorance. So how is it that Lord Shiva himself, who is in the mode of ignorance, who is controlling the mode of ignorance, can take one transcendental, can give one the position of transcendence beyond the modes of nature? And Lord Brahma is concerned with the mode of passion, fruitive activities, creation. Lord Brahma, just by his thinking alone, he's creating so many living entities whose only business is to perpetuate and maintain this cosmos. That's Lord Brahma's primary business. So then how can Lord Brahma free us from the modes of material nature? So these are the topmost living entities in the material universe. And it's said here that this material energy, which is under the influence of these living entities, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, is very, very difficult and practically impossible to overcome. But this energy, we should understand that it is a divine energy, it's not ordinary energy. So we should never minimize this energy. Actually, Very, very wonderful how Akrura, he is, when he's, after he was taking Krishna and Balaram from Mathura, to Mathura from Vrindavan. And he went into the Yamuna River to take his bath, and he told Krishna and Balaram that you wait for me, you boys wait for me on the chariot, I'm going to go for my bath. And when he goes in to take his bath, he goes under the water, and he sees there Lord Krishna as in the form of Narayan, and Lord Balaram as the form of Shesha. And he sees all the Devatas, Indra, Brahma, Varuna, Kubera, all the Gandharvas, Yakshas, and even the Daityas and demons as well, all offering praises to Krishna and Balaram as Narayan and Shesha. And he becomes astounded and filled with great, he becomes startled rather. And then he comes out, so he comes up with the water to catch himself to say, am I, just having an illusion? And he looks back, and he looks at the chariot, and there again he sees Krishna and Balaram just simply sitting on the chariot waiting for him. And again, he becomes overwhelmed with ecstasy and fills with wonder. And he enters into a deep bhav of ecstasy. And he begins to pray to Narayan and Shesha. He says, I bow down and offer my obeisances to you, the cause of all causes. The original, inexhaustible Supreme Person Narayan, from whose navel grows a lotus stem, and on top is the flower where Lord Brahma, who is the agent of all the manifestation, is sitting. Okay. So here, Akrura first begins his praise of the Lord by saying that you are the cause of all the causes. So the cause of all the causes, is just they're directly coming from the original cause, then they automatically are divine. But later on in the prayer, Akrura, he says that the fire is your face, and the earth is your feet, and the directions is your sense of hearing. The universe is your navel, and the heavens is your head. Okay. The oceans is your abdomen. Okay. And all the prajapatis, they are your creative power, your genitals. And the rains is your semen. So, by this vision, Akrura is showing us how to see the divinity in the creation that's around us. So even when we walk to the temple, we walk to the store, we walk to the house, we can be meditating that we're walking on the feet of the Lord. And just by this meditation alone, it helps us to understand how infinitesimal we are, because if this whole gigantic earth is the Lord's foot, we're thinking we're very big walking someplace, but when you think that this whole earth, and maybe how far can you go? 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 or 4, 5 miles at most. But as compared to the whole size of the earth, how big the earth is, then you realize how small and tiny as a living entity is. And then as you move, you're going north, south, east, west, or the directions in between. Wherever you go, you're going into the ear of the Lord, because every direction is the Lord's hearing. Then you can look at the sun. Akrura says that the sun and the moon, that's your eye. When we look at the sun, we look at the moon, immediately we see this is the eye of the Lord. And it's such a beautiful eye that it doesn't even have to blink like our eye. It is forever bright, always brilliantly shining all the time. And we can look deep at night. Of course, sometimes it's hard to hear to see. It might be different in this change of season, but if you go in the mountains and you look into the sky, you can see all, especially the big major galaxies. They're like moving like a spiral, just like a navel. You look far out, you see that this is the navel of the Lord. You see all the huge, vast oceans that are moving, innumerable particles across the earth. It's just like the abdomen of the Lord that's moving all of the things that we put inside of our body. It's moving it. The abdomen, churning and pushing. Each time it rains, we think that we can see this is the semen, this is the vital fluid of the Lord coming down to create life upon the earth. Okay. So this way, we can see that even though this energy is temporary manifestation, its efficient cause is directly the Lord. And as soon as we think like this, then immediately we have a sense and a feeling of divinity. Because we're directly connected with the divine itself. So this is the way that, not the way, but this is a process for renewing our consciousness, renovating, this consciousness that we have in this body. We see that the job of renovation is that we take something like our house and we add a new coat of paint and we plaster the walls, make it look new again. Sometimes it's very discouraging to do that because we live in an environment where people don't like to renovate. Therefore, you see there are very many beautiful structures, buildings all around us. But they're just crumbling because no one thinks that, oh, let me put a new brick and make it look pretty again. If you even go here locally, you'll see some very beautiful architecture, some design. You can just go even downtown. You see some of the classical artwork. You can think maybe 200 years ago, this was such a marvelous building. But no one is thinking to renovate it. We're thinking that to make something new, we want to make something new across the street and let that crumble and go become dust. This is a kind of a common condition of the kind of a common living condition because we don't like to make things new or to renew that which we already have, rather. We want to create something else. Instead of putting the work into making what we have continue to work nicely. So when we have a difficulty in our relationships with our friends, or partners, or spouses, then immediately our mind jumps to something else. We don't think about what do I need to do to make this new again. So this is by seeing the divinity of everything, then what it does, it helps us to make our mindset renewed. It renews our mind. So we start to look at things in a new light. So this process is especially effective through glorifying the Lord's energy. And every time we take a step on the earth, you can think that I'm not just walking unconsciously. Every day, Thousands of people come and walk around the city. Yet many of them are walking and they have their head up in the sky and their feet are not connected to the ground. So there's no respect for the earth. I walk by, throw some trash, spit here. There's no sense that this earth is divine. The only sense is that I'm here, I'm going to walk, and I'm going to get some benefit from God. So there's a disconnection between the intent and the actual process to achieve that intent. In order to make the intent fulfilling, there has to be a total connection. So we have to really be mindful, even in the small thing like walking around parikrama. Be mindful. Mindful simply means that I'm consciously aware of what I'm doing. I'm completely concentrated fully 100% on what I'm doing. And we know that previously in the previous chapter, Krishna has encouraged us to become mindful, to control our minds, not let our minds go all over the place. So even just walking on the earth, one can be very, very mindful and take each step intentionally, consciously, being aware that this is divine earth. Not because it says in the scripture that this is where Krishna danced and the dust will make me holy and and this is where Krishna stole the clothes and he looked at the Shastric information is very, very, the theoretical idea is very, very important. But it's not knowledge which is so much necessary for understanding the truth. It's the heart which is necessary for understanding the truth. So when we walk mindfully, then automatically we have to give our entire being. So actually you can, every time you take a step, you can think that, well, this is the Lord's foot, so with my step, I'm massaging the foot of the Lord. So each step can be of service. Otherwise, one is chanting up here and one's feet are someplace else, just trying to move, get around as quick as I can. Okay. So there's a disconnect between one's body, one's mind, and one's spirit. Yet with each step, if I think, now this step I'm massaging the Lord's foot, then not only do you become more conscious of the earth itself and the holiness of the earth, but you also become conscious of how you walk. So you'll start to walk, you'll start to notice that maybe I'm now not walking so in a balanced way. I might be walking in a way that's creating a strain on my lower back. So you may start to walk a little slower, take your time, walk in a little more of a balanced fashion. Why? Because now you're completely connected. The body is completely connected with the function, which is walking, and the source, which is supporting that walking, which is the earth. So this creates in German philosophy is a word called the Gestalt. Gestalt means that you get the whole idea, not just the little part of it. For instance, if you look at a triangle, you see the triangle, you don't see the one angle. You see all three angles. That's called a Gestalt. So we have this Gestalt experience in our service by seeing that everything we are working with has some connection to divinity. So not only am I walking, massaging the Lord's feet, but I'm moving in the direction which is the Lord's hearing. So I'm going into the ear of the Lord. And the sky that's surrounding me, this is the navel, the center, the core of the Lord's being. Therefore, with such an idea, viewpoint, we become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, we might be walking and doing the function, but we may not be Krishna conscious. We might be walking thinking about, yes, I have to do this parikrama because I want to pass my exam, or my baby is sick, or I want to get a new spouse, I want to go to Bombay, So Bhagavan, please help me get out of my situation here. Maybe I want to move in the temple, maybe I want to move out of the temple, maybe, whatever. So we're not fully connected to the Lord. So the idea is that we can practice by taking the words of Krishna to practice in such a way to expand our ability or our activities of Krishna consciousness and Krishna seva. And we get this ability by the mercy of the Lord. It says in the purport here that because the Lord is the controller of these energies, we can only get out of it by the mercy of the Lord Himself. Therefore, there's a great key at the end of this purport here. I can't find it right quick. But a great key, okay, I think I got it here. Okay, and the very end on page 338, the last sentence, the next to the last sentence, it says, anybody want to read that? So it's Krishna being, where it starts there. You want to see to the right side?
Krishna being the Lord of illusory energy can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of His causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of His paternal affection for the living entity who is originally a beloved son of the Lord.
Yes, so this is very beautiful, you see, that Krishna orders this out of His causeless mercy. And primarily the only functional capacity that we have at this time is to solicit the Lord to have mercy upon us. To ask the Lord for His mercy. Because according to our state of being, we normally ask the Lord for things that perpetuate our bondage. We have all created our own dreams that's brought us here. Each and every one of us, we have our own dream. And it's your dream and my dream that's created our environment that we're functioning under. Yet in this dream, we can ask the Lord to please wake us up. Please wake me up. Because all of us, we create this dream, and then once we go into the dream, we can't deal with it. In one purport in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada gives an example. He says that a young girl, she goes to the temple and she prays to the Lord, "Oh God, please give me a nice husband. And please give me a nice family." And then God says, okay, He gives her a nice husband. And gives her a nice family. And then after many, many years, she turns around and she says, "Oh my God, what kind of situation have I gotten myself in here?" And she sees that she's suffering very much. Those are not exact words that he says it like that, but that's what he says. So the idea is that we create our own dreams. And then in that dream, we are in a condition that we can't deal with. We find ourselves in situations that are stressful, overwhelming, torturous, uncomfortable, painful, cause us a lot of misery. So basically our dreams generally turn into nightmares. So in this dream state, we can ask the Lord, wake me up. Wake me up. And then the Lord, out of His mercy, can wake us up. And then to wake us up, we enter into a greater vision, a vision of reality. So this vision of reality that's called Vaikuntha, Golok Vrindavan. So this vision, we hear about it, yet it's very difficult for us to renew our consciousness. Mainly because we are attached to our dream world. Or we are afraid. We are afraid to let the Lord lead us to a waking state. So we maintain, even though day in and day out, we continually face misery and suffering. We find a moment in the dream where it's might be peaceful, it's okay. But then a couple of seconds after that, there's something which just crops up out of nowhere. No one wakes up in the morning and wishes that in a couple of hours something terrible will happen to me. But you walk out of your door and there it is, unexpected. You walk down the street or you get on the bus or get in your car and something unexpected happens. Or you wake up in the morning and you open your mail and there's something unexpected. You open the internet and you look at CNN and this world is unexpected. And every day we look at, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Is there going to be a tsunami, a hurricane, or tornado, or earthquake? And we read about it in Alaska or in the Philippines. And we sit here, we think it won't happen here. But any moment, the reality is that we can wake up tomorrow morning and the earth can be shaken. And we will be totally unable to do anything about it. So in this condition, we are bound up in a situation of trouble, which is produced out of this dream fantasy that we have projected ourselves in. And we have to pray to the Lord, Lord, please, please wake me up from this dream. And when we get the mercy of the Lord, as we get the mercy, we begin to understand that actually I am not of this illusion that I have created here. There's a word, I think a Hindi word, help me, the Sanskrit word, but Hindi also is pratibimba. Pratibimba. You know pratibimba? A reflection. So we are all basically pratibimba of the Lord. We are His reflection. We're His image. But just like a reflection in the mirror, when the mirror is covered by dust and dirt, you don't see clearly what's in the mirror. So we have to clean the dust. So that's what the chanting of the Maha Mantra does. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the process of cleaning the mirror of the heart. And as we clean the mirror through hearing the chanting, the holy name of the Lord, then we begin to see that actually I'm just like the Lord. So this is the first step, you see, when I was speaking about the monist philosophers, they say, yes, I'm actually non-different from the Lord. Abheda. I thought that there was some difference because the mirror was covered, but actually I'm not different. This is called abheda. But actually into the mirror, the image in the mirror is not the same as the image outside. It's just a reflection. It's just the image of that. So similarly, just like it says in the Bible, we're all made in the image of God. So we are a reflection of God. God has eyes, a nose, ears, mouth, a sense of taste, a sense of smell, intelligence, ego, will, emotions and feelings. And we have those also because we are made, the Creator made us just like Him. So we're that pratibimba. And through this process of hearing about the glories of the Lord, then we wake up. That's the way to wake up. So this is the way to actually get the mercy, and this is the idea of asking for the mercy. Oh Lord, please let me hear about your glories. The more I hear about you, the more awake I become. As we hear about the Lord, we start to enter into a state. It's called, technically, we have what is called the Bhava-rupa Jnana. We start to gain some knowledge of our natural form and the natural mood that we're in relationship with the Lord. The Bhava-rupa Jnana. We attain this consciousness through hearing. So look, in the very beginning of this chapter, the very first verse, what does Krishna say to Arjuna? Anybody remember the first verse? It says, hear from me. Listen. Hear. So it's this hearing which is the key. Hearing is the key. So this hearing, we should pray that, Lord, let me hear more about you. Let me hear your glories, because when we hear, then we're able to speak. And then we're able to think and meditate. And then the following processes of activities of devotion, which complete our function of being totally, completely connected to the Lord. This helps us to in our path, or moving ourselves back towards the glories of the Lord, of the position of being connected to the Lord. And it begins with us from this verse understanding that everything around us is divine. So we have to hear this idea, speak this idea, and meditate upon this idea. So every time now we walk on the earth, we speak to ourselves that I'm walking on the Lord's feet. Wherever I move, I'm going in the direction of the Lord. When I look deep into the sky, I know that I can see this is the Lord's. Everybody remember? Navel. When I look in the day, I see the sun. At night, I see the moon. I see these are the eyes of the Lord. And we get up in the morning, it's raining. We don't think that, it's raining today. We think, no, this is the fertility of the Lord falling upon the earth. What a glorious day it is. What a wonderful day. New life is now coming to the earth. In this way, we see that we have deep connection with nature. And That means that we're living the life, the divine life. So this way Krishna says that by surrendering unto Him, then we can cross beyond the entanglement of His binding energy. Would anyone like to make a contribution to the class today? Haribol. I think she's going to get the microphone so that everybody can hear. Mr. Mike?
In the beginning, you told that Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is science.
Yeah.
And we need to know who is Krishna and know his energy.
Yeah.
And actually, this topic is concluded in standing talk for some month and year.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that Dr. Thakur mentioned that there are 7 topics of Brahma, and some of them is Krishna, Jiva, the connection, and Krishna energies,
Mm-hmm.
so all these things. And from my understanding, it is if we understand these topics, and this is the beginning of the consciousness, it is like foundation for developing bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
And then only we can do our practice on the day perfectly and successfully.
Yeah.
And also told in lectures that it is like symptom of situation and yoga that people disconnected with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's symptom of very serious. And I think I want to ask, what do you think from what points we need to start people need to start cultivate Krishna consciousness, bhakti, to be connected with what we can offer or explain. It was not some separate ideas, but it would be like more systematical way.
Yes, that original reference is on text 4 of the same chapter, where it says, "The science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and His diverse energies." Diverse energies. Yeah. So it's just like everyone has, every entity has a certain level of development, intellectually, emotionally, physically. So a good preacher means that we understand that person's nature and capacities, and we present the information according to their abilities to comprehend it and appreciate it and make use of it. So in other words, we don't have to go to everybody and say that this is Krishna's earth. But many people, when they go to the beach or go to the mountains, automatically many people will have a sense of reverence and respect. So we can talk from that level to respect nature and to try and lead the consciousness to understand that this is not something that is an ordinary man-made phenomenon. There has to be some great intelligence behind it. That all depends on the particular time and circumstance of the conversation, but the original point is that, back to your original idea, is that just like initially, a person let's say a young scientist or a novice scientist come into a science class, and the professor's first job is to teach them the fundamentals of the scientific work, to grasp the fundamentals of what you're going to be doing later on. Now it's a natural tendency that everybody wants to do something advanced before they master the basics. But you can't live in a house until you've built it. And in order to build a house, we have to understand what the science, what the tools are required to construct that house. Yeah. And before that, you have to have the plan. Then you get the tools, you get the money, all those things. Then you start the construction, you get the right people. So the basic elements, the basic ingredients, we have to first learn to really fully comprehend and appreciate all the primary necessities required for spiritual practice. So therefore, it doesn't matter how advanced we become, truly, my opinion is that, at least for me, I'll speak for me, I can never minimize the practice of a neophyte devotee. Because each and every practice of the neophyte devotee is an opportunity for me to renew whatever I may have created already. So the fundamentals are always part of that renewing, renovating process of devotional service. It's back to the idea of renovating. A lot, as I said before, a lot of us, we don't like to renovate. We want to jump, we have one apartment and we get a little cracks or whatever, or maybe a house, and we think of build a new one or rent a new one. But all we have to do is go to the store, we get some plaster, or get the guy to come in, and half an hour it looks new. So similarly, the fundamental practices of devotional service that we learn as a neophyte, they're not something that we learn today so that we can give them up and be doing something else tomorrow. But each time we do them, they enrich and add glory to the progress that we're making. So we can never get enough of chanting 16 rounds. Even though you might chant 64 rounds, you can never get enough of chanting the 16 rounds. Because the 16 is the basis for the 64. The 16 is the basis for the 64. So we will always be working, at least myself, as to how to make this 16 rounds right. How to make this 16 rounds nice and hearable, sweet to hear, enjoyable to say. Otherwise, we can chant 32 rounds, and if you're at 31, is by the time you're there, I think it's like $25. You sound like you're at the auction. So we go back and make the 16 nice, and sweet and perfect, so that Krishna wants to hear that. That Krishna wants to dance with that. Then that 17th round will even be nice. 18th round will be nicer. 19th. Oh, they'll all be nicer after that. So the idea is that we should not be too anxious to neglect the fundamentals. Sometimes we want to make the cake and we want to minimize the ingredients, but not read the recipe. We make the cake, we're halfway through. Oh, I know how to make it now. I'll just start creating stuff along the way, and I'll add this instead of that. Well, you might get a cake, but it won't be the original cake. First, perfect the recipe. Over and over and over again. That adds deep meaning to what Prabhupada is asking us. Don't change anything. Then we start to have some deep realization what he means. Don't change anything. Don't change anything. Change yourself. Don't change anything. We want to change everything but not change ourselves. We want to keep ourselves as the way we are and then change everything that Prabhupada put. So let's try that formula. Change yourself, but don't change what he's given. Just something to think about. Any other contributions today? They can be in a question form or a statement form or elaboration of ideas.
You mentioned Pratibhava, reflection.
Yes.
Isn't it perverted reflection?
Yes, the one we have now is perverted. Yeah.
The living entities are perverted reflection.
But our nature is that we are a reflection of the Lord. We're not a perverted, we're a perfect reflection, but the way we're carrying on is that our activities are perverted. So the Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and because I'm a reflection is my nature also, I'm an enjoyer, but the perversion is that I think I'm the supreme enjoyer.
Yes, and that perversion.
That's the perversion.
When the cover is removed, our original reflection manifests.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct?
Correct. That's the clear reflection of who I really am. That's the realization, the true realization of the self, the soul. The truth, Atma, Tattva Gyan, the true understanding of the self. That is our constitutional natural position, Swarup. But we have to keep cleansing the mirror because the dust keeps coming. Day in and day out.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, sir.
Really impressive class. I have just one confusion regarding the bondage and liberty mentioned some points. So we are materially bounded originally, and you have told us and various other scriptures we know that we should not ask for the Lord for any other thing except mercy. So my point and my question is, it is not good that we should ask for the Lord for get rid of our material bondage or our present material problem. We have to keep on asking instead of mercy directly that we are involved or engrossed with such and such and such problems. So please get out of, please help us to get out of these problems.
Yeah.
Is it not that? My question.
Yes, that's right. Yes, it's right. That's the mercy of the Lord.
So we have to keep asking our particular problems and particular bondages.
Initially, that's a good because it trains us up to become dependent on the Lord and to see the Lord's wonderful works in our lives. And then after a while, we start to become mature in our growth and development, and then we will stop putting ourselves in the bad situation. Then we can ask the Lord for some greater mercy. But initially, yes, we should ask the Lord to help us in our day-to-day business. That's why the Lord, He says, later on, I think in this chapter, that different kind of people come to him. They ask for him. They may be sick. They come, they ask, Lord, heal me. People have financial problems. They come, ask the Lord, help me. People, they just want to know something about the Lord. They come and ask the Lord, oh, tell me about this. So yes, people, Krishna himself said, this is why people come. And he's saying that because he helps them. But the idea also of it is that when we start receiving the Lord's help and mercy, we start to become appreciative. And we start to feel gratitude. So it's just like, you might do something and you get a disease. And you go to the doctor, you say, help me. Doctor, of course, I'll help you. Can you go back and do it again? You get the disease again, you go back to the doctor and he helps you. Then maybe after the third time you say, I'm not going to do that anymore. It becomes a troublesome for you. So that's part of your realization. You come to understand that this is too much trouble. It's so much trouble. Even though the doctor can take care of it. For me, it's too much trouble now. It's great suffering. So you will automatically get the realization. So we start to see not only that, get the realization ourselves of the trouble, but we start to appreciate how wonderful the doctor is, which is Krishna. How great he is. Yet, as we mature in our relationship with Krishna, we don't take advantage of his blessing and his mercy. We become full of gratitude towards him. The Lord's. Any mothers, you have any questions on that side?
One point.
Yeah.
I very appreciate that, in Chitikara, when they're coming to Vrindavan, there's a constructed, made murti of Durga, and this is really very like symbol, because real Bhava covered material energy, and Durga Devi also in the beginning it's like also protecting from materialistic people, Dharma and covering Dharma, and really this is his divine energy, so dense, so powerful, that's not so easy to see real Vrindavan, real transcendental goal. I also understood and realized that Durga Devi, material energy, cooperate with the Lord. As we also told, a separate energy. But in the same time, it is his energy. And
Yes.
she is not opposite.
Not opposite.
And actually, she is also acting in such a way for devotees. She's helping because one of the name of Durga is Vaishnavi. But how many names have Durga? You remember? It is like nine names, and some of this like Bhairava, it's very awful. And some other names, the Vaishnavi, Swami,
So all these names all these names of the energy, we have to follow the path of our Kura and all the great to see how we connect our consciousness by understanding that they're divine. So how we engage ourselves in such a way that we realize that this energy is divine. So all of us, we have to walk out of here and walk around. Let's try one day to, as we walk, just remember that I'm walking on the foot of the Lord. Lord. And you'll see that actually that you will feel like a little tiny germ on your foot. It's so tiny you can't even see it there. But it's there. So similarly, you'll feel like a little tiny germ in this whole earth. Yet we can do service to the Lord. We can keep His feet nice and clean, not disrespected, and help other people to also, especially people who are coming here, are walking around somehow or another in a polite, kind way. We can help them to see that this is the foot of the Lord, and they can become connected. So yes, all these names are there for us to see that yes, this is the Lord's energy. It's the Lord's energy. Just like being in the prison, the person is in the prison. Everything in the prison belongs to the government. But we know there's the guard, there's the superintendent, there's the warden, there's the night shift, the day shift, there's the canteen, the cook, the cleaners. But they all work for the government. So similarly, in the prison, we said this person is cooking, but they're working for the prison, for the government. They're just different names. So all the different names of material energy, they're all the energies of the Lord, all working under His direction. That's why we, as emphasized last, we always say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Not just Radhe Radhe. Hare Krishna. We connect the energy to the Lord. Hare Krishna. Lakshmi Narayan. Sita Ram. Not Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. We can do that, but Hare Krishna. Connect the energy to the Lord. Just like a person who, if you walk into say you walk into Buckingham Palace, you don't go to the Queen and say, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. Right? You don't go to the Queen and you don't walk through the palace and go, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. No. Your Majesty, Queen Elizabeth. So if you want to call Radhe, Srimate Radharani, show respect, show honor. That way we can understand the glories of Radha by honoring her. Until we understand the glory and majesty of God, we cannot really appreciate the power and mercy that God has to give us. That's why Prabhupada himself lived in Vrindavan for 12 years. But when Prabhupada came out of Vrindavan, he taught people how to worship Krishna as Lakshmi Narayan. In order for us to start to build up this power of respect in the mind. We just don't walk in the palace and go, Elizabeth, Charles. That's disrespect. Gopal Krishna Maharaj is the GBC here. When he comes in, does anybody go up to him and go, Gopal? Or why do you go in Vrindavan and go Radhe? You don't go to Prabhupada and go, Abhay. No. So we have to develop this mindset where we have honor and respect. And, then we can really truly appreciate the glory of the Lord. So we should glorify Radharani, but Srimati Radharani. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.